Before we begin, listen carefully. Some stories should not be told in daylight, not because they become less frightening, but because daylight teaches you to make excuses. After midnight, excuses get thin. Welcome back to Midnight Echo Radio. I'm Seraphine Corven. Tonight, the archive opens for 4 transmissions. A last train announcement from a platform that should not exist. An emergency alert that learns an address. A closet door that appears from the wrong side of the wall. And a roadside warning that waits for headlights. Settle in. And if something in your room seems closer by the end, do not measure the distance. Story 1. The last train announcement. The last train at Renfield Station was never listed on the board. That was the first thing Lena noticed when she started cleaning the platforms after midnight. Every legitimate train had a number, a destination, and a delay that changed every few minutes with the bored confidence of a machine lying to strangers. Northbound 82, delayed. Southbound 19, arriving. Maintenance transfer, do not board. But at 12:17 a.m., after the ticket windows went dark and the security guard locked himself in the break room, the speakers clicked on and a woman's voice announced a train no screen acknowledged. The final service is now approaching Platform 4. Passengers with unfinished business should stand behind the yellow line. There was no Platform 4. Renfield had 3 platforms, all above ground, all visible from the main concourse. Platform 1 faced the city. Platform 2 faced the suburbs. Platform 3 had not been used since the flood, when a commuter train sat overnight in black water, and no one inside it answered the rescue crews until morning. Lena paused with her mop in both hands. The announcement repeated. Passengers with unfinished business should stand behind the yellow line. She looked up at the ceiling speakers. Dust trembled around the grill. Then the departures board flickered. For 1 second, beneath the ordinary schedule, a 4th line appeared. 12:17, Platform 4, last train, on time. Lena radioed Carl. Did you hear that? The security guard answered with a mouthful of vending machine chips. Hear what? Announcement for Platform 4. Carl was quiet long enough for the station to become aware of itself around her. Fluorescent hum, distant pipes, rain tapping the skylights. Go home early, he said. That bad? That polite. Before she could ask what he meant, the radio hissed and died. At the far end of the concourse, between the locked florist kiosk and the old payphone alcove, a stairwell appeared. Lena knew every stain in that station. She knew which tiles had cracked, which bins smelled sour even when empty, which cameras were decorative. There had never been stairs there. A brass sign hung above them. Platform 4. The stairs descended into blue light. Lena should have left. She thought about it. She even turned toward the employee exit. Then someone below began to cry. Not loudly, not theatrically. A tired little sound, like a person trying to keep grief from inconveniencing anyone. Lena had hated that sound since she was 11, when her mother cried in hospital corridors with one hand over her mouth. She went down 3 steps. The air changed immediately. The station smell vanished. No bleach, no rain, no metal dust. Only cold upholstery, old newspaper, and the faint electrical scent of a train arriving somewhere it should not. At the bottom was a platform she had never seen. It was narrower than the others and much older. White tile walls, green iron pillars, lamps shaped like milk glass globes. Along the edge ran a yellow line so bright it seemed newly painted. People stood behind it, dozens of them. A man in a suit with water dripping from his cuffs. A woman holding a birthday cake that had collapsed in the middle. A boy in a school uniform with one shoe missing. An old couple sharing an umbrella, though no rain fell underground. None of them looked at Lena. They watched the tunnel. The announcement voice returned, softer below ground. The last train accepts exact regrets only. Please have yours ready before boarding. Lena took one step backward. A hand touched her sleeve. The boy with one shoe looked up at her. Do you know if this one stops at Orchard? I don't know, Lena said. Every head on the platform turned. Not quickly, not all at once. One after another, as if her answer had passed through them like a draft. The boy smiled with terrible gratitude. You can answer, he said. From the tunnel came a light. It was not the white glare of a modern train. It was amber, warm, almost domestic. It lit the faces of the waiting passengers and made them look briefly alive. The rails began to sing. Lena backed toward the stairs. The first step was gone. In its place stood a ticket gate. Carl was on the other side. He wore his security jacket, but it was wet to the shoulders. His radio hung from one hand, dripping black water onto the tile. I told you to go home, he said. Carl, what is this? The train people wait for when they missed the thing that mattered. Are you dead? He looked embarrassed by the question. Only on this platform. The train arrived without wind. No brakes screamed, no doors chimed. One moment the tunnel was empty. The next, a row of dark windows slid to a perfect stop beside the yellow line. Each window reflected a different room. A kitchen with a phone ringing, a hospital bed, a nursery with one lamp on. A car pulled onto the shoulder of a highway. Lena saw herself in one window at 11 years old, sitting outside room 312 while her mother slept through the last thing her father tried to say. She had gone to get a soda. That was the regret. Small enough to hold, heavy enough to shape a life around. The doors opened. Passengers began to board. As each one stepped inside, they changed. The dripping man became dry. The old couple stood straighter. The boy found his missing shoe on the threshold and put it on before entering. Carl did not move. Don't look for your stop, he said. Lena stared at the window with the hospital room. Inside it, her father turned his head. He was younger than he had been at the end. His mouth moved around her name. The announcement voice said, "Unclaimed apologies may still be accepted." Lena stepped toward the open door. Carl caught her wrist. His hand was ice. "It doesn't take you to the moment," he said. "It takes the moment out of you." The passengers inside watched politely, patiently, with the mild interest of people who had already paid. Her father's reflection lifted one hand from the hospital blanket. Lena whispered, "I wasn't there." The train answered with every speaker at once. Then board. She thought of 11-year-old hunger, a vending machine, orange soda, the ordinary cruelty of being a child when someone needs an adult. She thought of building a life around one empty chair in a hospital room. Then she thought of Carl saying, "Exact regrets." Lena looked at the window and said, "I am sorry I believed leaving meant I loved him less." The train lights flickered. Her father smiled. Not forgiveness, not absolution. Recognition. The The doors began to close. The boy with one shoe leaned out from the nearest car. "That's not exact enough," he whispered. Carl shoved Lena backward. She fell through the ticket gate and struck tile hard enough to split her lip. The stairwell was behind her again. Above, Renfield Station hummed with ordinary electricity. Below, the last train pulled away. Through the closing doors, she heard Carl say to someone unseen, "Mine is that I let her answer." Then the platform folded into darkness. The next morning, Renfield had 3 platforms. The florist kiosk was where it had always been. The payphone alcove held only dust and a dead receiver. Carl's locker was empty. No one on staff remembered him except Lena, and the schedule showed she had worked alone for 6 months. Now, whenever she closes the station, she wears headphones during the final hour. Not to play music, to muffle the speakers. Sometimes, at 12:17, she still hears the announcement through bone. The final service is now approaching platform 4. And once, last winter, she saw her own name appear on the board. Not under destination, under delay. Lena Ortiz. Delayed. She left without finishing the floors. The next cleaner quit after 1 shift. He said a train came after midnight, and a guard with wet sleeves told him not to be polite. That was good advice. If a station announces a platform that should not exist, do not investigate. If someone below asks for directions, do not answer. And if the last train shows you the one moment you would give anything to repair, remember this: some doors do not open to the past. They open to the part of you that never left. Story 2. The Alert. The first alert came through at 3:07 a.m. Ellen Vale was awake before it sounded. She never learned why. One moment she was dreaming of rain against a window. The next she was sitting upright in bed, certain that the house had stopped breathing. Then every device screamed. Her phone, the television, the tablet on the chair, the old weather radio her father had given her because Bryer County had storms with bad manners and chemical plants 30 miles west. Civil danger warning. Shelter in place immediately. Do not open doors or windows. Do not respond to knocking, calling, crying, or requests for assistance outside the home. Ellen stood barefoot in the blue flash of the television. Alerts were not rare in Bryer County, but this one did not name a storm, a road, a suspect, or a leak. It named behaviors. Do not look directly into reflective surfaces facing exterior walls. Do not use telephone communication with cleared residents. Do not speak to anyone you cannot see in full. She went downstairs without turning on the hall light. Through the kitchen curtain, the neighborhood looked painted black. No porch lights, no cars, no dog at the fence. Nothing. The broadcast tone ended. A recorded male voice began reading household names. The Corwin residence is cleared. A porch light came on 2 doors down. The Patel residence is cleared. Another light. The Hargrove residence is cleared. Across the fence, a warm square appeared in Mr. Hargrove's kitchen. The list moved down Briar Creek Road. Every house around Ellen's lit up. Hers stayed dark. The alert tone returned. Uncleared residents must remain inside. Cleared residents must remain away from uncleared residences. Do not approach, do not assist, do not investigate. Her phone buzzed. Mara Corwin. Are you cleared? Ellen typed, no. The reply came slowly. Don't answer the door. Someone knocked. 3 polite taps. Not urgent, not loud. The kind of knock a neighbor uses when they already know you are awake. "Ellen?" Mr. Hargrove called from the porch. He sounded embarrassed. "My light's out. I think I'm on the wrong side of the fence." The weather radio hissed. "Uncleared residents may hear requests for assistance. These requests are not verified. Do not answer." Ellen backed away from the hall. Beside the front door was a narrow, frosted window. At night, if someone stood close enough, you could see the suggestion of a body through it. There was a body there now. Tall, still, bent slightly toward the glass. Her phone buzzed again. "Mara, Hargrove is inside. I can see him at his window." Then another message arrived, from Ellen's own number. "Cleared." The television went black. Every porch light in the neighborhood went out. In the dark, something dragged along the siding from the front porch toward the back door. Not footsteps, more like wet cloth pulled slowly across brick. The alert returned with the same male voice, but something in it had thickened. Vale residents pending interior confirmation. Resident must proceed to safest interior room. Resident must bring 1 light source. Resident must not look behind them. The back door handle turned, locked. The voice repeated, softer now. Resident must proceed. There are instructions that protect you, and there are instructions that move you. That thought saved her. The earlier alert had taken choices away. This one was giving her a path. Ellen dropped to the kitchen floor and stayed there. The weather radio cracked with clean static. "This is a correction from the Bryan County Office of Public Safety. Disregard all instructions issued after 3:21 a.m. Do not relocate within the residence. Do not bring a light source. Do not approach interior halls, closets, attics, crawl spaces, or rooms without windows." The thing outside stopped breathing. For 5 seconds, the house was silent. Then every door inside knocked at once. Bedroom, bathroom, basement, the coat closet, the pantry behind her shoulder. 3 polite taps from every hollow place that could open. The radio said, "Do not answer interior knocking." From behind the pantry door, Ellen heard her mother's voice. Her mother had been dead for 9 years. "Ellie," it whispered, "you were supposed to come when they called your house." Ellen covered her mouth until her teeth cut her lip. The radio continued without mercy. "Cleared residents are instructed not to remember the uncleared resident aloud." Her phone displayed a voicemail from Mara. Ellen played it because fear makes strange bargains. Mara whispered, "If you get this, the alert changed for us. It says you are not inside your house. It says something wearing your address is inside. Ellen, if you are there, don't let them clear you. Cleared means they know which one to keep." The voicemail ended. The alert tone played one final time. "Vale residence has been cleared." The porch light came on. So did the kitchen light. So did the light inside the pantry, though there was no bulb there. The pantry door clicked unlocked. Ellen ran through the kitchen window. Not the door. Not the hall. Through glass and screen and frame. Because every official instruction had treated windows like danger, and danger was the only thing left that sounded honest. Across the street, Mara stood behind her curtain. She saw Ellen bleeding in the yard. For 1 second, recognition held. Then Mara's face changed. Not fear, forgetfulness. Like someone had erased Ellen's name from behind her eyes. Ellen moved out 3 days later. She left the dishes, the photographs, the old weather radio, everything that knew the shape of that house. The county bought the property before the listing went public. Now, 117 Briar Creek Road sits behind a chain-link fence with floodlights that never point directly at the house. Once a year, Ellen's phone receives a text from her own number. Cleared. Last year, it included an audio file. She did not play it. This year, the message changed. All surrounding residents have been advised. Then another. Remain where you are until your current address is named. Ellen turned off every device in her apartment, but somewhere in the walls, something began practicing the alert tone. Story 3. The second door. Julian found the second door because the closet smelled like rain. That was the first wrong thing. His apartment was on the 4th floor. The bedroom closet backed against another unit, not an exterior wall. There were no pipes there, no windows, no reasonable path for weather to enter. Still, every night after midnight, damp air seeped through the coats. The building manager, Ms. Bell, told him old apartments breathed. Brick holds memory, she said, as if that was maintenance advice. On Thursday, Julian pulled everything out. Shoes, boxes, winter coats, a guitar case he had not opened in years. Behind them, the back wall of the closet bowed inward. He pressed it. The panel clicked. A narrow door swung open. There should have been drywall, studs, the neighbor's closet, perhaps a place where mice had been living with better rent control than he had. Instead, there was a small landing and a staircase going down. The air that came up was cold and wet. Julian called Ms. Bell. She arrived in slippers, took one look at the opening, and closed her eyes. "You opened it from this side," she said. "What side should I open it from?" "No one opens it from this side." "Is this a fire hazard?" Ms. Bell looked at him with pity so complete it made him angry. "Every apartment has a second door," she said. "Most tenants never find theirs." That is not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. She told him 3 rules. Do not step onto the landing. Do not speak if someone knocks from below. Do not trade rooms with anyone, no matter what they offer. Julian said, "Trade rooms?" Ms. Bell shut the closet door, then the panel, then stood with both hands pressed flat against it. "Sleep in the living room tonight." At 1:12 a.m., someone knocked from inside the closet. Julian had dragged his mattress to the living room. He lay facing the hall, every lamp on, his phone open to emergency services because fear likes to pretend it has procedures. 3 knocks, then a voice. "Hello? I think I'm below you." It sounded like a young man, scared, close to tears. Julian did not answer. "My door opened into stairs. I went down and now it only goes down. Please, if you can hear me, I need to trade." The apartment above Julian creaked, then the one below, then the pipes. All through the building, from behind walls and under floors, came small, careful knocks. Ms. Bell had said every apartment had a second door. She had not said every door opened at once. The voice in the closet continued. "I have a better unit, 2 bedrooms, south-facing windows. You can have it. Just say yes." Julian stayed silent. At 1:47, the voice changed. It became his own, not an imitation of his voice as he heard it in his head. His recorded voice, thinner, flatter. The version from voicemails and videos. The version that always made him wince. "You don't like this place," it said. "You never did." Julian sat up. "You said the walls were too thin. You said you could hear everyone living better lives around you. I can give you another room." Something slid under the closet door. A lease. The paper moved across the hallway as if pushed by a hand that stayed politely out of sight. It had his name on it, Unit 4B, current occupant. Below it, in blank spaces waiting for signatures, Unit undetermined, receiving occupant. Julian backed into the kitchen. From upstairs, a woman screamed once, then stopped. A minute later, her footsteps crossed the ceiling toward her bedroom closet. Julian heard her say, very calmly, "Yes." The whole building sighed. Not the tenants, the building. The lights dimmed. The floor dipped beneath Julian's feet as if something enormous had shifted its weight. The next morning, the woman upstairs was gone. Her apartment was empty except for a damp rectangle on the bedroom closet floor. Ms. Bell stood in the hallway while movers carried in boxes for a new tenant. Julian said, "Where did she go?" Ms. Bell's face had the blank patience of someone refusing to join a ritual. People move. That fast? Sometimes they're eager. Julian packed that afternoon. By 6, he had 2 suitcases and no plan. He called a friend. No answer. He booked a cheap hotel. His card declined. He tried to leave the building. The elevator opened onto the 4th floor every time. Stairs, too. Down 1 flight, 4th floor. Up 1 flight, 4th floor. Fire escape, 4th floor. At 11:58 p.m., Ms. Bell slipped a note under his door. "Do not accept a better room." At midnight, the closet knocked. The voice below sounded tired now. "Julian, please. I took the wrong trade." He recognized the woman from upstairs. "I thought I was moving into sunlight," she whispered. "There are no windows here, only closets." The panel behind his coats clicked open by itself. Cold, wet air filled the apartment. The lease slid farther across the floor. Julian picked up a kitchen knife and cut the paper into strips. Every strip bled rainwater. The voice below him said, "That counts as a signature." The closet door opened, not all the way, just enough to show the landing and the first step down. On the step sat Julian's guitar case, the one he had pulled from the closet earlier. It was open. Inside lay a set of keys, a newer phone, a wallet full of cash, and a photograph of a sunny apartment he had never seen but immediately missed. From below, his own recorded voice whispered, "You can have a better life. You only have to let someone else keep this one." Julian ran to the window and broke it with a chair. Cold air rushed in. The city was outside, 4 floors down, wet with honest rain. Behind him, every closet in the building opened. Not loudly, with the soft, polite clicks of people being shown their options. Julian climbed onto the fire escape and did not look back until he reached the alley. Ms. Bell was there in her slippers, holding an umbrella. "You found the only way out," she said. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I did," she said. "I said not to trade." He never went back for his belongings. 3 months later, a package arrived at his new address. No return label. Inside was the lease he had cut to pieces, reassembled with clear tape. At the bottom, below his name, another signature had appeared. It was his handwriting. Not current, older, shakier, as if written by someone who had spent years practicing in the dark. The apartment building is still full. Every window has a plant. Every listing says, natural light, charming pre-war details, generous closets. If you tour it and the bedroom closet smells like rain, do not ask what is behind the back panel. You may be shown something better. That is how the building decides you are ready to be replaced. Story 4. The Woman at the Crossing. There is a railroad crossing on County Line Road where the lights sometimes blink, though no train is coming. Locals know not to stop there after midnight. They do not write this down. They do not put it in tourist guides. They teach it the way rural places teach useful fear. Quietly, through a hand on the steering wheel and a change in speed. If the lights blink, keep driving. If you see a woman standing just beyond your headlights, do not slow down. If she appears in the back seat, do not look in the mirror. Ben Harper learned the rule at 17 from his father, who had learned it from a school bus driver, who claimed she had learned it from a boy who came home with white hair and no shadow under his chin. At 17, Ben laughed. At 34, returning home for his father's funeral, he took County Line Road because grief makes old places feel negotiable. It was 12:26 a.m. The August fields were black and breathing. The road cut between soybeans and telephone poles, then dipped toward the tracks. The crossing lights began to blink. No bell, no train horn, just red lights pulsing over empty rails. Ben slowed before he remembered. The woman stood at the edge of his headlights. She wore a pale dress that might once have been white. Her hair hung straight over her face. One hand rested on the crossing sign. The other pointed down the road behind him. Ben's foot found the brake. Then his father's voice rose from memory, sharp as a slap. Keep driving. He pressed the gas. The car rolled over the tracks. In the rearview mirror, the woman was gone. Ben laughed once, breathless and embarrassed. Then someone in the back seat laughed with him. He did not look. His hands tightened on the wheel until his knuckles ached. A voice behind him said, "You remembered half." It was a woman's voice, close, calm, almost amused. Ben kept his eyes on the road. "What's the other half?" he whispered. "You don't ask questions." The radio turned on by itself. Static filled the car, then an old country song his father used to hate. The dashboard clock changed from 12:28 to 12:26. The crossing lights appeared ahead. Same road, same tracks, same red pulse. Ben had not turned around. The woman stood at the edge of his headlights again. This time she was closer. Behind him, the back seat creaked as if someone leaned forward. "Do you know why they warn you not to stop?" she asked. Ben said nothing. "Because stopping is polite." The car crossed the tracks. The clock returned to 12:26. The crossing appeared again. On the third pass, Ben saw his father standing beside the woman, not as he had looked in the casket that afternoon, painted and still and too small inside his suit. This was his father at 50, broad-shouldered, grease under his nails, one hand lifted in warning. Ben sobbed once but did not stop. In the back seat, the woman whispered, "Good. He taught you something." The fourth pass, she was in the road. Ben swerved. The car shuddered over gravel, corrected, and crossed the rails at an angle. In the mirror, a pale hand rested on the back seat between the headrests. He stared forward. The voice said, "You may ask one question now." Ben thought of his father, the hospital bed, the months he had avoided calling because he did not want to hear a strong man sound small. The funeral, full of neighbors who had known more about his father's last year than he had. He asked, "Did he stop?" The woman was quiet. The clock blinked 12:26. The crossing returned. This time, his father stood in the middle of the road alone. Ben drove toward him. At the last second, his father turned his head and looked through the windshield. His mouth formed one word: "Don't." Ben did not brake. The car passed through him like fog. Behind him, the woman sighed. "He stopped for me in 1989, she said. Then he learned to drive on. Why are you doing this? You asked your question." The next loop began. The gas gauge dropped. The temperature in the car fell. Frost gathered along the inside of the windshield, though it was August. Ben drove through the crossing again and again, while the woman in the back seat hummed with the radio. On the 9th pass, he saw other cars lined along the road beyond the tracks, headlights dim, engines running. Drivers sat inside them with both hands on the wheel, staring forward. Some were young, some old. Some had passengers shaped like shadows behind them. Every local warning had made it sound like survival was simple. Keep driving. Do not look in the mirror. Do not stop. No one had mentioned what happened if the road did not end. Ben's phone lit up in the cup holder. Dad. The contact photo was 10 years old. His father smiling beside a grill, one hand raised to block the camera. Ben did not answer. The voicemail recorded anyway. His father's voice filled the car. "Ben, if you're hearing this, you slowed down. That's all right. We all slow down eventually. Listen to me. The crossing doesn't want the dead. It has enough of us. It wants drivers. It wants people who can still choose." The woman stopped humming. The voicemail continued. "When she moves to the back seat, don't look. When she asks you to be kind, don't answer. When she shows you me, remember I already got out once. You can too." The crossing appeared ahead. This time, the lights were not red. They were white. His father said, "On the next pass, turn off your headlights." Ben whispered, "I won't see the road." From the phone, his father answered, "That's the point." The voicemail ended. The woman leaned close enough for Ben to feel breath against his ear. "If you turn them off," she said, "you might hit someone." There it was. Politeness. The trap wearing a human shape. Ben reached for the headlight switch. The woman screamed, not like a ghost, like a person furious at being refused. He turned the lights off. The road vanished. So did the tracks. So did the woman in the pale dress. So did the mirror, the dashboard, the red pulse, the white lights, the endless line of waiting cars. For one impossible second, Ben drove through perfect dark. Then dawn hit the windshield. The car sat idling on the shoulder of County Line Road, 10 feet past the tracks. Birds moved in the fields. His phone was dead. His father's voicemail was gone. On the back seat lay a single strand of wet hair. Ben sold the car 2 days later. He stayed in town long enough to settle the house, then took the highway out and never used County Line Road again. But every year, and the night of his father's funeral, his new car's headlights flicker at 12:26. The radio turns to static, and from the back seat, where no one is sitting, a woman hums until he says thank you. He has never said it. If you drive that road, you might see the crossing lights blink without a train. You might see a woman just beyond the reach of your headlights. You might even recognize someone standing beside her, someone you miss badly enough to touch the brake. Do not. Grief is a hand on the wheel. So is hunger. Only one of them wants you home. Closing transmission. You have been listening to Midnight Echo Radio. 4 entries from the archive. 4 doors left partly open. A train that learned to wait. An alert that learned to name. A closet that learned to bargain. A crossing that learned the shape of grief. If one of them follows you out of the room tonight, be patient with yourself. Fear is not always a warning. Sometimes it is the part of you that noticed first. I'm Seraphine Corvin. Keep the lights low. And if the phone rings after this, count the seconds before you answer. Some calls are only looking for someone polite enough to stay on the line.